Okay, so today we will discuss about the successor states. Okay, so in that first what we will do is we will discuss about Bengal in detail, and here we will talk about Battle of Plassey and Battle of Buxar also. And after that we will take up Hyderabad, then we will discuss about Hyderabad in detail, and then we will see Mysore, and then we will discuss about Marathas. Okay, so see, I'm telling again and again, please turn off your mic. Okay, so we will start with Bengal today, and then Hyderabad, then we will discuss about Mysore, and finally Marathas. So actually, even though Britishers go with the Anglo-Maratha war was there in 1770s, but after the war there was a ceasefire, or they stopped fighting with Marathas for some long period of time, around 20 years, 2 decades. They were not fighting against Marathas because Marathas were so strong, and they were offering very strict resistance also to the British. So what they thought is, after the first Maratha war, they thought they will fight against they will control the Hyderabad and then Mysore, and then they will tackle Marathas. Okay, so we will discuss this order. First, today we are going to talk about Battle of Plassey, Battle of Buxar, and then Hyderabad, then Mysore, then Marathas. That's the order. And actually, after doing this, but this will take a lot of time. When we discuss about Marathas, the third Anglo-Maratha war, which is actually happening in 1817 only. But the administrative structure, if we need to discuss, we need to discuss from 1773. So 1773 is actually the administrative structure that we need to discuss in detail from the British side. But here, when we discuss about the wars and the successor states and the rebellious states, we will go till 1817 with this wars itself. First, we will discuss about the Battle of Plassey, then Buxar, then we will discuss about Carnatic wars, then we will discuss about Mysore war, then we will discuss about Maratha wars. So finally, the Marathas got crushed in 1817, and the institution of Peshwa, the Peshwaship, will be abolished, and then that we will see. So after doing that only, we will come back to this again 1773, and we will start discussing about each Governor General, Warren Hastings, Cornwallis, everything we will cover in that way. Okay, so I'll start with Bengal. So I'll give you a brief timeline or the order. No, I'm not going to discuss about advent of Europeans. I'm starting from 1757 Battle of Plassey, and from there onwards we'll discuss further. And decline of Mughal onwards is what we are discussing. In Bengal, we will talk about, as I have told you, Murshid Quli we will discuss. Okay, Murshid Quli. And then after the death of Murshid Quli, later Ali Vardi Khan. So Ali Vardi Khan is actually more important. We'll discuss that. So Murshid Quli, if you see, yesterday itself I have told you, the Murshid Quli in Bengal as well as Nizamul Mulk, that means Asaf Jahan in Hyderabad, both were actually the nobles of Aurangzeb. They were in fact very good nobles of Aurangzeb, and after some time they have realized that the Mughals are going to decline. The Mughal rule will not be that dominant, or the centralized Mughal rule will not be there. So they went on and they established their own empire. Okay, so initially I've told you that in Hyderabad, Asaf Jahan became the governor in 1724, and then he became autonomous. Okay, similarly in Bengal, Murshid Quli became governor in 1717, and then he became autonomous. So we will focus on Bengal. Now when you talk about Bengal, Bengal is actually a very huge area. It's not the present day Bengal. It comprises of Bihar, it is Orissa, okay, and the present day Bangladesh is also part of this. So Bengal, Bihar, Orissa and Bangladesh. It's actually a very big territory, big area, and most importantly, you don't want to learn these names, not at all important, but I'm just discussing it, okay. So most importantly, it's a fertile land, okay, very fertile land. So what is the advantage? If you need to consider two things at that time, one is the area. So here area is huge. Secondly, fertility of the soil, so that the most of the revenue is actually coming from land revenue. So the possibility of collection of revenue is so high in this area, firstly because the area, secondly because of the fertility, because this is in the plains of Ganga. So it's a big source of revenue, and in fact 1/3 of revenue was actually from Bengal only. If you talk about the central Mughal Empire, the entire revenue, out of which 1/3 was actually from Bengal. So it's so significant and so important, this particular region, or in terms of area and in terms of the fertility of the soil also. Okay, now some reforms have been done by Murshid Quli. If you see, there were some problems with Mansabdaris and Mansabdars that we have discussed yesterday. So when Murshid Quli came, what he did is, he actually increased the size of Jagirs. Increase the size of Jagirs means he basically increased the Mansabdar. Size is increased. Earlier, some small and some big, okay, like that only. So you need more and more Jagirs. But here, now the size of Jagir is actually increased. So the advantage is you just need to have very less Jagirdars. So the size of Jagirs increased. That means number of Jagirdars are actually less. Why reduce the number of Jagirdars is basically because you need to be more disciplined. So you can control them. And there were some other rule change also, like the taxes has to be paid in time. Okay, so taxes in time, and even if there is a flood, in case of a drought or whatever it is, you have to pay the tax on time. So this is something which was introduced by Murshid Quli here. So first point, increase the size of the Jagirs and reduce the, it's like this only, the size of the districts are increasing, so the number of administrators which is required for the district is coming down, just like that. So you can take it in that way. So Jagirdaris, that means the Mansabdaris in number is actually decreased. The main idea is behind this is basically to make them disciplined. So this is one important aspect, because this is a centralized setup, so that you can make them disciplined. Then secondly, related to the taxes, you have to pay the taxes on time, whatever be the issue. There may be flood, there may be drought, any natural calamity, but still you have to pay the tax. So these 2 points has to be kept in mind, and because of this, so this is very important, and because of this Mansabdar, since they have to pay the tax, otherwise they will face the problem. So they were totally dependent on money lenders. Okay, so money lenders, in some books you will see traders. Okay, all these are the people who are actually helping the Mansabdars or Jagirdars, or money lenders, traders, or merchant banks, okay, like that you will see. So you can see their role is actually increased during this time because of that provision. Okay, and they became a very important players of the economy in that particular region at that point of time. So who are they? Mainly Mansabdar, obviously they have the role, that means the Jagirdars, plus the merchant bankers or the traders or the money lenders. They became politically also very important, because Mansabdars have some role to control army and all. So these people became politically also very important. And among this, the most important is Jagat Seth brothers. Jagat Seth brothers. They were basically business people, merchant group only. Now, so that's one important point that you need to know here. And in 1717, as I've told you, Murshid Quli became the governor of Bengal. And after the death of Murshid Quli in 1739, okay, Murshid Quli is not assassinated, it is a natural death only. In 1739, who became the head here? It is actually Alivardi Khan. It is very difficult for you to remember all the name, and it is actually not required. From prelims point of view, what I am going to discuss from 1773 only is more important. These areas are not that important, but I am just telling you how they established their setup here. So Alivardi Khan, he came to power after the death of Murshid Quli, and he was actually the military commander in the court of Murshid Quli only. And this person, Alivardi Khan, was actually supported by Jagat Seth brothers. So he came to power with the support of Jagat Seth brothers. And later you will see in 1756, so this is the order. 1717, we are talking about Bengal. In 1717, Murshid Quli. 1739, Alivardi Khan. 1756, Siraj-ud-Daulah, very young king, and he will face a lot of issues and that is what we are going to discuss as the cause or the reason as Battle of Plassey and 1757, because that young king, everybody will try to exploit or use that king, that is Siraj-ud-Daulah. He was in his early 20s only at that point of time when he became powerful. Okay, so 1757 we will discuss about Battle of Plassey, and 1764 or 63, 64 during this time we will discuss about Battle of Buxar, and we will also talk about the Treaty of Allahabad, which is actually signed after the battle. Okay, so here after the Battle of Plassey also there was treaty, and we will also talk about Plassey plunder. Okay, so these are the things that we are going to discuss today. Now see, everything is actually connected to this British-French rivalry, that we will discuss this rivalry, British-French rivalry in detail when we discuss about Hyderabad. But see, if you talk about 1900s, which among the two groups are responsible for World War, or two main rivals were like France and Germany, right? During 1900s, exactly in the similar way during 1700s, if there was such kind of situation, it was actually between English and French. Now this Jagat Seth brothers were actually in support of English, and both of them, French as well as English, both of them were looking to get the exclusive trading rights and privileges in India. Okay, so this Jagat Seth brothers, what they do, they will actually buy goods from British. So they were merchants, right? They were merchants, and they will buy from British, and they will sell in India. Okay, and this way they will sell to English also. So this is actually a cycle, it will repeat. And in fact, at that point of time, it was considered as so good, because Indian artisans also finding a market here. Indian peasant is also finding a market, because spices, tea, cotton, silk and everything was in huge demand. But the main problem comes after 1813 Charter Act. Once the monopoly of East India Company ended, all these things that I am referring, I am going to discuss in detail, so you don't want to worry when I am discussing about 1813 Charter Act here. I am going to discuss that in detail later, but I am saying the problems are mainly coming after 1813 Charter Act. During this time, it is like a win-win situation. You are importing, you are exporting. So Indian peasants are also getting a good market. So in that context, it was very good. Okay, and during this time, you can see everybody want to have an exclusive market. So, and this French as well as English, they wanted to control, or they both wanted to get the support of Siraj-ud-Daulah, or they both wanted to control Siraj-ud-Daulah, because he was very young at that point of time. And Siraj-ud-Daulah came to power after Alivardi Khan. Alivardi Khan was actually a very matured person. He was able to control all these people, the French, English, Jagat Seth brothers, everybody was under the control of Alivardi Khan. Even though Alivardi Khan came to power with the support of Jagat Seth brothers, but there was a balance between, and he managed a balance between all. Some areas were given to French, some areas to English, and like that. Okay, but this Jagat Seth brothers were more in favor of English, because they made a deal that they will have exclusive trade. Jagat Seth brothers will get trade in England, like that they made a deal. So Jagat Seth brothers were actually in favor of English, and I've told you there was a political lobbying also, because these people are getting very powerful. The Mansabdars are under their control, because they are providing loan, they are providing assistance and everything. Okay, and this situation, you can see there was a political instability also, because of all these problems. The young king and everybody is trying to control the king, so there was a political instability at that point of time. Okay, so now can we discuss about the reasons for this Battle of Plassey? Or before discussing the reasons for Battle of Plassey, this successor state means what? Yeah, somebody was asking me this. Successor state means I am talking about Hyderabad, and Mysore will not come here, Hyderabad, Awadh and also Bengal. So here they were actually connected to Mughals. They accept the authority of Mughals, but they established their own autonomous setup. Bengal, Murshid Quli, Hyderabad we have discussed yesterday, Nizamul Mulk, and Awadh also we will discuss. And all these three will come together in the Battle of Buxar. Okay, Battle of Plassey, it was with related to Bengal, but all of them will come together in the Battle of Buxar that we will discuss. In fact, all these the rulers here in all these successor states, they were the nobles of the in the court of Aurangzeb only, and they later became governors and then became autonomous. Okay, so as we have discussed, this is the order. Again, I'll repeat: 1717. When we discuss about Bengal, it is Murshid Quli, and then 1739. Not that important, but I'm just saying this. 1739. It is Ali Vardi Khan. So he was a military commandant or commander in the court of Murshid Quli, and he was supported by Jagat Seth brothers. Okay, and he had a neutral policy, and he was able to manage everyone, the French and the British and the Jagat Seth brothers, and he managed quite well. But immediately after, see, during this time you can see a political stability. Okay, there is no instability for some period of time up till around 17 years. Ali Vardi Khan is there, so up till 1756. Now after, it is normal, right? It is very common in any situation that after a long tenure, if somebody new is coming, and if that too, if it is a very young person who is not that matured, there will be a political instability. So in 1756, when Ali Vardi Khan is dying, then comes Siraj-ud-Daulah. So the political instability is there this time. Exactly like this, I've told you yesterday, Aurangzeb was ruling for 50 years. And after Aurangzeb, immediately after the death, within 10 years, you can see 4 rulers. Okay, so this is very common. After a better rule or a long period of time, stable period, there will be a political instability. That is actually very common. Now during this time, the main problem was, yesterday I have discussed about the problems related to Afghan. Those people, Ahmad Shah Abdali, and they will come, Afghan invaders, they will come, they will loot, they will go. That was their revenue model, that was their revenue system. They don't want to come here, they don't want to establish their administrative setup or anything here. They just come, they loot, they go. Whatever they want, they will take, they will go. This is what you call as military raid. Okay, and during this time, not only this Afghan are doing this, the same was actually done by Marathas also. So yesterday, if you remember, when I have discussed about the decline of Mughal, it automatically means the rise of Marathas. So Marathas are getting very stronger, especially after the death of Aurangzeb. So Aurangzeb was fighting against Marathas for the last 50 years and captured some regions, but it was very expensive war which was fought, and Mughals did not get much advantage even though they captured the Deccan regions. But now, after the death of Aurangzeb, coupled with the fall of or decline of Mughal, the Marathas are getting stronger, and they started military raids. Okay, so they come and they will loot, they will go. So during this time, Ali Vardi Khan, he understood the threat from the Marathas, and he actually made a deal with Marathas. So Ali Vardi Khan actually made a deal with Maratha. So Marathas will make this kind of deals with different states, neighboring kingdoms, like you need to pay 1/4 of the revenue, you need to pay 1/10 of the revenue. So some states it is 1/4, some state it is 2/3, some state it is 1/10. So different states have to pay different portion of their revenue collected to Marathas. If not paying, they will come and they will collect and they will go. That is what you call as the military raid. So Ali Vardi Khan actually made a deal with the Marathas, and in that deal, Ali Vardi Khan accepted that he will give 1/4 of the revenue to Marathas. So in return, there should not be any frequent military raid. You should stop this military raid. Okay, so it is basically done for what? It is basically done for preventing a war, as he understood the war is not going to be good for Bengal at that point of time. So he wanted things to be stable. So the main threat at that point of time was Marathas. So he struck a deal with the Marathas by giving 1/4 of the revenue which was collected from the Bengal, and Marathas are also happy. So that deal was there at that point of time. With respect to this deal and with respect to the revenue setup of Marathas, we will discuss later, and this kind of setup in fact was one of the most important reason why Marathas lost against English, because Marathas will even after beating the neighboring kingdoms, they will not take up the administrative setup there. they will allow the ruler to continue in their kingdom. They only need revenue. They only need to get the some portion of the revenue. Otherwise, they will go for military raid again. That was their policy, but that actually backfired Marathas. We will discuss about that detail. Okay, so I'm saying few points which actually happened during this point of time. So now I've told you that Jagat Seth brothers were more inclined towards English. So Jagat Seth brothers now advised Siraj-ud-Daulah that you should give duty-free trade access to British, because already Jagat Seth brothers and English made a deal, right? Between them there is a deal that Jagat Seth brothers will get the trading privileges in England also. So Jagat Seth brothers in return asked Siraj-ud-Daulah to give exclusive trading privileges, duty-free access to the British, but Siraj-ud-Daulah, he did not accept it. Okay, so he didn't accept it. So in fact these two, they want to change Siraj-ud-Daulah. So that is actually the main reason for deciding. They decided that they are going to change, Siraj-ud-Daulah. Okay, and Britishers at that point of time violated a lot of conditions which were imposed on Britishers at that point of time. Like they started bringing guns in the ports, which was not actually allowed, and they started giving refugee to the to some people which looted. So I don't remember exactly the name. We'll come across that name after some point of time. So they have given some refugee to some people who were against Siraj-ud-Daulah. Okay, so all these are actually taken Siraj-ud-Daulah in a wrong way, and he captured the fort of Calcutta, and that's what the so-called or the famous Black Hole tragedy. So different textbooks you will see different numbers. In some books I've seen 120, 130, and some books it is written that this is a much high number. It is like 20, 30 only people have died. So this much Britishers actually died because of suffocation. So basically what I want to tell you is the East India Company started violating some of the trading privileges which was given to them. Okay, they started bringing the guns. Okay, they started giving refugee to people who were not supposed to be done, to be protected. And then against this, Siraj-ud-Daulah actually launched an assault, and he captured the port of Calcutta. That is the Black Hole tragedy. Now Britishers were waiting for one reason to launch a war at this point of time. So now clearly they got a reason. So Robert Clive, now he got a reason. So that is actually the context for Battle of Plassey. Okay, so as I have already told you, Jagat Seth brothers, they already had a deal with British, okay, the East India Company, regarding the trade policies and everything. And they also made a deal with Mir Jafar. You don't want to remember these names. You will come across a lot of names: Mir Jafar, then Mir Qasim, Ali Wardi Khan, Siraj-ud-Daulah. All these names are not that important. Okay, so they made a deal with Mir Jafar. Mir Jafar was actually the military commander of Siraj-ud-Daulah. Okay, so the deal which was made with Mir Jafar, and what actually happened is he refused to obey the order of Siraj-ud-Daulah at this point of time. That means half of the army was not obeying the king at that point of time. When the war started, the Battle of Plassey, when we are discussing, when the war started, half of the army is not obeying. So that means even without fighting the war was actually lost. So that is why I've told you, Battle of Plassey, it's not actually a battle. It was not fought, and no one died. There was no fight, but the impact is more important. Okay, so the reason why they failed, or we are talking about this Battle of Plassey, it was failed, is because the army was not ready to fight. Mir Jafar, who was the military commander, who already made a deal with them, so he will become the next ruler, like that. Okay, now then in this context we will have to talk about Plassey plunder. So under this, the main point which is coming here is, it gave British the exclusive trading privileges. Okay, so what they have demanded, that was not given by Siraj-ud-Daulah. Now when Siraj-ud-Daulah was replaced with Mir Jafar, they got the exclusive trading privileges. That means duty-free trading privileges in Bengal. and also a sum of 22.5 million rupee war compensation has to be paid over a period of 5 years. So this was a big huge amount at that point of time, and Mir Jafar was not able to pay also, even though the promise was there, but he was not able to pay. And one more point is there, this point you will come across again and again, even in after the Battle of Buxar also, and then when we discuss about subsidiary alliance, later we will discuss about this concept, subsidiary alliance. There also we will discuss this point that an English resident will be stationed in the capital of Bengal. So the British resident had to be stationed in the capital of Bengal, that is in Murshidabad. So in Spectrum it was given here after this Battle of Plassey, but in some other books it was given that after the Battle of Buxar, English resident had to be stationed. So I think originally it was after the Battle of Buxar only, but here I have seen in 2-3 books it is written like this also. Okay, so Spectrum, when you're reading you will see that. So that's what we are discussing under the Plassey plunder. So whatever they have demanded, the main demand was what? It is related to the duty-free trading, and that was granted. Exclusive trading privileges to the British, and that will be over from 1813 when we discuss about Charter Act. So all these has to be connected at that point of time. Okay, then 22.5 million compensation, war compensation, which has to be paid over a period of 5 years. So you will see it's like 4.5 million some books, because if you see 4.5 million, it is per year. Okay, so 5 years is there, so that's why 22.5 million. So I think in Spectrum it is written like 4.5 million, that is like per year. So overall, over 5 years, over a period of 5 years, it is 22.5 million. These numbers are not at all important. I am just saying what is this Plassey plunder, out of which what is more important? What is more important is this only, duty-free trading access. For that only they were fighting. So they got that. Okay. Now, as I have told you, Mir Jafar, even though gave the promise, but he was not able to meet the demand, and he was not able to pay the required sum. So what happened? Actually now the Jagat Seth brothers, I've told you, they are the key players at that point of time. They want to replace him. So he was replaced with Mir Qasim. Again, I am repeatedly telling you, all these names are there in the textbook Spectrum, and I want you to read these 2 books, TMH and Spectrum. TMH is a very small book only, like hardly 200 rupees it will cost. Get that book, it is very good, and Muhammad Tariq Khan is the author. He was my teacher, so very good teacher as well as author. So you can read this, so you can connect it with my lecture easily if you can go with TMH, and everything that I am discussing will anyway be covered in Spectrum also. So these 2 books if you have, then there is nothing else is required actually. Okay, focus on this only. So now Mir Qasim will be TMH Modern Indian History, Muhammad Tariq Khan. It's actually a very good book for a good perspective for mains. This is mainly for prelims. This you can use for prelims as well as mains. Very small book only, limited content only, but you will get a very good perspective in writing. So and obviously if you need better perspectives and all, you will have to go for Bipin Chandra and all, but I'm saying at least these 2 are minimum which is required. So Mir Qasim is now the ruler. Okay, Mir Jafar was actually replaced. So now Mir Qasim. Okay, now when he came, actually he understood that if things are going like this, it will be very difficult for him to control the British, because now they are becoming the puppet in the hands of the British. So it will be obviously very difficult in the long run. You keep on paying this amount and it is very difficult obviously. So what he did is, he made a deal with the other successor states. What are the other successor states? Awadh. Okay, so in Awadh at that point of time, again Siraj-ud-Daulah, no need to remember the name. Then Delhi, Shah Alam II, and then the Mir Qasim. Okay, so Bengal. So these 3 are now coming together. The 3 successor states are now coming together, and the joint force is now fighting against the British. Okay, so I hope you understood the context. The Battle of Plassey, then connected to Plassey plunder, Mir Jafar was not able to pay and Mir Qasim was appointed. He realized that this exploitation, if continue, it is going to create problem for them in future also. So he cannot be a puppet in the hands of the British. So he made a deal with the other rulers in the other successor state like Awadh and the central Mughal ruler. Okay, and they fought a war in 1764. That is what? Battle of Buxar. So this was an actual war, not like Battle of Plassey. Battle of Plassey, I've told you, there was no war actually fought, nobody died. Okay, but here this was an actual war, and the importance or the significance is the British defeated the joint army of Awadh, Delhi and Bengal. Okay, and a treaty of Allahabad was signed after the defeat. So treaty of Allahabad is actually very important. So few points are there which has to be there related to the treaty of Allahabad in your answer. Now if you take one by one with respect to Shah Alam, so they are not much interested with that king. So Britishers are actually asked Shah Alam for retirement. Okay, so nothing much to do. So retirement, so you go for retirement, we will give some pension. So that was the condition, and from Shah Alam during this time onwards they started giving pension. Now later you will see Bahadur Shah Zafar. Okay, he will be beaten. He will be that once the king was beaten, he will be uprooted. He will be sent to some other area and he will be getting some pension. Bahadur Shah Zafar, you will see in after the 1857 revolt. Then Peshwa Bajirao too, you will see after the third Anglo-Maratha war. Similarly, when the Punjab, after the Anglo-Punjab war, when the king of Punjab was beaten, he was sent to England. So this was actually the mercy that the Britishers were doing after Shah Alam onwards. Once they beat the king, they will uproot the king, also give some pension for the king to live. Now we were talking about the treaty. Okay, so in Bengal already whatever you wanted, you already got. What was that? Mainly the trading privilege. So that you already got. Now what more you need? What more you can think of? Now what you need is actually the land revenue or revenue collection power. So this was actually asked, okay, in the Treaty of Allahabad. So Treaty of Allahabad 1765 after the Battle of Buxar. So now the revenue collection rights in Bengal. Okay, now here immediate war compensation of 5 million by Awadh. Already from Bengal they have looted a lot. 22 million we have discussed already. So 5 million, these numbers, nothing they will ask you here in prelims. You don't want to remember all this. Okay, but since it is a treaty in this context, if possible you can remember this 5 million, but not number, some war compensation. That's what you need to remember here. And again from Awadh also, now duty-free trading privilege. So if you see after the Battle of Plassey, there was an agreement, there was a deal in that this duty-free access was already there in Bengal. Now extra what they need, revenue collection power. Okay, so the war compensation actually got already from Bengal. Now here exactly the same thing that happened in Bengal. Now this is war compensation and then duty-free access. And also this English resident had to be stationed in Murshidabad. Okay, so some books are written like it was here. So even I also have this confusion exactly. I'm not sure. 2 books I've referred. So one it is like in 17 because of revenue collection and every other because of other facilities. And the other areas they automatically became the puppet in the hands of the British. Even the Awadh king actually became a puppet in the hands of the British. Whatever British will do, will say the Awadh king will do. That was actually the situation. Okay, so ultimately now if you try to finalize, what are the causes? So this is how you need to answer in case if the question is asked in mains. The main causes, if you see, the assertive position of the young Nawab, that is Siraj-ud-Daulah, with respect to British and Jagat Seth brothers. So that is the main reason. No, Siraj-ud-Daulah was never ready to accept the demand of Jagat Seth brothers and British. So this was one of the most important reason. Apart from that, the other reason which you can write is Anglo French rivalry. So this was again very important reason. Because of that only they were fighting, because they both need exclusive rights, exclusive markets. So that is also one of the reason. Okay, so Anglo-French rivalry, and that made British very apprehensive of a possible alliance between the Nawab and French East India Company. So that is also one reason. Then the third one, defiance of Nawab's authority. Defiance of Nawab's authority. Okay, so like British fortifying their position in Bengal. I've told you this, giving refuge to the absconders or the fugitives from Nawab's courts. So all these actually again created anger in the mind of Siraj-ud-Daulah. So he went for attacking the fort, and that's the Black Hole tragedy. And the immediate reason was actually the Black Hole tragedy. Apart from this, one more point you can write is the defection of merchant bankers, right? Like Jagat Seth brothers, who was felt threatened by the young Nawab. That is actually discussed here anyway. So this are the two main reasons. This and this. There's the immediate reason. All these are in fact connected only. So there's the three main causes which has to be there in your answer if the question is asked in mains. What is the significance? Now finally we need to talk about the significance. See, after the completion of the lecture, one reading of spectrum will actually help you a lot, because otherwise if you're reading, it will be very difficult for you to remember everything. But immediately after this discussion, if you go and read, you will be able to connect everything that we have discussed, because most of the things, maybe some points may differ, but the theme is almost the same only. Okay, so significance, if we discuss, it gave the British a very firm foothold in the subcontinent. When they have defeated the collective army of the Bengal, Delhi and Awadh, then they became a kind of superior. Okay, and also one more important thing is during this time French started sending, in fact a French army was there in India at that point of time, means French government army was there in India at that point of time to protect the French establishments. Since French army was here, British also sent their army to protect the East India Company, and once the army came here, then they stayed back here. Okay, so that is also made the English very powerful here. Okay, and in one stroke it made the British strong contender for being the next pan-India empire. So during this time you can see the Mughals are declining, and the successor state don't have that capacity to become a pan-India empire. Maybe Mysore, but still there are obvious limitations. But the next pan-India empire could have been Marathas, but because of their administrative policy, they were not able to become pan-India empire. In fact, the third battle of Panipat also was a big problem for them, and it actually decided that it proved that Marathas will not become the pan-India empire next. We will discuss about third battle of Panipat in detail later. Okay, so actually after the battle of Buxar, it made the British a very strong contender for the next pan-India empire, and it was actually a very strong boost to the finances of East India Company, right? Because I've already talked about Plassey plunder and also Treaty of Allahabad. So from Plassey plunder you got too much of amount, okay, and from Treaty of Allahabad also you got around 5 million compensation. So it improved the finances of the East India Company, and even now the British army was also staying back. They were able to pay very huge amount for that support also. So okay, all these are advantages, and most importantly after the Battle of Buxar they actually got the revenue collecting rights, and also indirect control over the policies of Bengal. What do you mean by indirect control over the policies of Bengal? I've told you there was a British resident who need to be stationed in the capital of the state, that means in Murshidabad. Okay, so these are the main points that we need to discuss, and if you need to discuss the Treaty of Allahabad in detail, so the main points we have discussed: the compensation that has to be paid by Awadh will pay the compensation, and okay, Awadh will give the trade privileges. Okay, and with respect to Delhi, Shah Alam will be granted pension and he will go for retirement. And then with respect to Bengal, an English resident had to be stationed, and also revenue collection rights will be given. That is more important. Okay, so you will see the issue of Farman granting the Diwani in Bengal, Bihar and Orissa to East India Company. Okay, and the British will get Nizamat function also. Nizamat function means military, defense, police and administrative functions. Okay, so that made Britishers very powerful during this point of time. That is actually the significance of Battle of Buxar and also Battle of Plassey. Both are actually connected. In fact, Battle of Plassey was not an actual battle. Okay, so the main points that we discussed is related to, you don't want to remember the name of the rulers. We have discussed about Bengal and how British made their strong presence in Bengal, and from 1773 how the centralized rule is going to come. That also we will discuss in detail. So Battle of Plassey, the reasons we have discussed. Okay, the significance also we have discussed. Battle of Plassey and Battle of Buxar, both has to be seen together. Battle of Plassey, after that Siraj-ud-Daulah was not there, then Mir Qasim, okay, and he was not able to meet the treaty. So no, this is Mir Jafar, he was not able to meet the treaty, so Mir Qasim came. He made an alliance between Awadh, Delhi, Bengal, and the collective army fought against British, and British defeated them and again imposition, then the Treaty of Allahabad. So I think one reading of that book, any book, will be okay for you now, and you will understand the concepts in detail. Now, defiance of Nawab's authority, it is not defiance in Awadh. I am saying the British actions which was actually felt it is going against the Nawab, Siraj-ud-Daulah. So he got angered and he got annoyed. So some of the actions of the British, that's what I'm saying, defiance of Nawab's authority. It is a kind of checking or threatening the Nawab's authority. They violated the trading privileges and the trading positions which were actually given to the British. Okay, so also they started giving refuge to the absconders from the Nawab's court. So those were things which actually angered and annoyed the king, ruler at that point of time, and that is the reason why this black hole tragedy. He wanted to teach the British a lesson. So, and in fact, Robert Clive, the British at that time were actually looking for a reason, because they need to report it to the parliament. Obviously, if there is any problem which is actually happening, they have to report it properly. So now, after this black hole tragedy, they got a proper reason. Around 100 Englishmen died, right? So that they got the reason now. Yeah. Any doubts? Bipin Chandra is good. It's just you can read Bipin Chandra, NCRT Bipin Chandra you can read, or the big book also you can read, or TMH Muhammad Tariq Khan you can read. But if you are decided to read only one book, read this only. Read this and stick to it. Understand each and every point there. If you have decided to read only one book, and that is actually a very good strategy, rather than reading 5 books and forgetting everything. Like 5 chapters of each book, no need, right? Spectrum, if you are sticking to it, that itself is fine. Even though it looks very small, but it is filled with too much of content. You cannot remember, in fact, even the spectrum. Even after you go for 6, 7, 10 times revision, still you forget the things. So it will be good if you can stick to that particular book. And in case if you get questions outside the book, it is your fate. Nobody can help you in that way.